2014 Energy and Environment Committee to order. I'd like to welcome my colleagues. I know some of us, Mr. Koretz will not be attending today, so we have a quorum and we will begin. I'd like to take item 4, Mr. CLA, out of order. I know Mr. Labange has got some time-sensitive issues, so let's make sure that we hear that one first and then we'll proceed after that.
Certainly, sir. We'll go ahead and proceed with that. Item number 4 relates to the motion Labange Blumenfield relative to request of the Department of Water and Power to investigate providing city residents innovative and alternative means to report emergencies, such as water main breaks and power outages. We have staff from Department of Water and Power.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ramallo.
Good afternoon. Hello, council members. Joe Ramallo, Director of Communications at LADWP, and seated with me is Cliff Eng from our Information Technology Bureau in the department. The department currently on social media has a variety of different accounts that we use, primarily for both monitoring and sharing information. We use Twitter. We have over 8,500 followers on that account. We also have 2 Facebook pages. LA's Water Future is one page, and the other is a corporate page. We have over 5,000 followers on or likes on the LA's Water Future page, and we're actually looking at combining those 2 items. We have a YouTube channel, we have a Flickr account, and we also have a 24/7 LADWPnews.com news page. The motion asks specifically about taking reports of water or power outages, as I understood it, through social media, and then integrating that through into our response, our outage management system. And what I will tell you is that we use social media really well and very frequently. I have 2 staff that a part of their daily duties is on social media, really watching for people to comment, if they say anything about us, seeing if we can step in and help. And it's been received very well. Very, very good responses from folks. We do that during the business day. We also, to a lesser extent, but very regularly, engage after hours. That's something I typically do, or a couple of my staff who are really well trained on Twitter will do after hours as well. We don't have 24/7 monitoring, though, of Twitter per se, and I don't have a 24/7 staff PIO operation similar to what LAFD does. But what I would mention is even Brian Humphreys at LAFD they don't take 911 calls through Twitter, and for us to take outage calls, it is technologically.
All right, here's where we'll cut to the chase. What's the number to make a powers out? What number?
1-800-DIAL-DWP.
What is it?
1-800-DIAL-DWP.
Give me like the numbers.
I have to look at my phone to do that.
Okay, so that's the first thing. I want to see like 311 DWP, DWP 311 or something simple. Because there's a variety of things, and I think what people have complained to me, and I love DWP. You got that, Mr. Clerk? I understand what they do, and I'm supportive. But they complain to me, Mr. Chair, that they often get lost in a world. And also, sometimes the connection between LA City 311 is not as easy. So I'm just saying, if you have a power outage, you know, or something.
Mr. Labange, come on over to the mic so we can get it for the record here. So this way we, there you go.
For the record, these mics work because they got the power from DWP, whether it's here or here. So I just want to make it simple for the people, you know, because they have complained, or they don't know what, or they get on a long period of time where they have to hold, you know, and if there's a way to email, which is a potential possibility.
We do take, we recently had some problems when customer service changed the messages on our interactive voice response system. When you call 1-800-DIAL-DWP, instead of leaving first to report an outage, press 1 or 2, whatever the number is, which is the first message that used to always come on. They switched it to explain that we were having long hold times. That was a mistake, and it's been corrected. So right now when you call, the first message is to report an outage, press 1 or 2, and it puts you into the automated system that ties into our IT system automatically for grouping and reporting of outages and responding and dispatching crews.
Who does it the best in the industry? Or do you know, you're on international and national
in the
groups? No, not in
social media? Or?
No, in terms of everything. I don't want to, so how do you communicate with people? How could they communicate with you? How could they call direct, either by using new devices of technology and get a response? Because is it true, Joe, that if there's a power pole there, there's a power pole there, you don't know where the power's out in a building. You don't have a big screen like they do that says where the power's out. You got to
Right.
hear it, and then the crew's got to go out and actually.
Right. If you had a truly smart grid deployed throughout the city, the system would be telling you where the outages are. You wouldn't have to have customers call you to tell you.
Right.
It's
So
totally true.
we just don't have a smart grid, right? And a
have-
smart grid,
The pilot smart grid program. that-
which is city's 472 square miles, how many miles is smart?
50,000 meters?
Yeah.
Yeah, 50,000 meters out of 1.4 million.
Yeah, okay, so there's work to do there. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chair, if we could hold this a month, let me go over and visit with DWP and also talk to the neighborhood councils and some of the people who complain. I want you to do the best you can do, which I know you want to do, but I just think there's some ways. I know Mr. Garcetti, when he was a councilman, had wanted on the website, 311 city, where you could just, www.311 city. So you don't have to remember 1-800-DWP. So if you ever go on Jeopardy, make sure you know the number is 1-800-367-1751, or whatever the number is.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we hold the item for 30 days?
Yeah.
And, the good news, Joe, is that Mr. Blumenfield is also on this committee. He chairs our information, what are we calling it today? ITGS?
Yep, Innovation Technology General Services.
And I know that you all are working on this brand-new callback feature for folks to minimize their waits and that sort of thing. So why don't we figure out through my office, if it's okay, Mr. Labange, to coordinate a time to sort of go visit. I would love to go do that. And if we have to notice it because there's three of us and Mr. Blumenfield would like to join us, I think it'd be really helpful because I'm also hearing from the field that we're not doing the warm transfers well enough as an entire system. So 311 has their warm handoff. You've got street services that's got their sort of mechanism.
DOT.
You all have got yours. So it begs a larger question, but we'll go ahead and hold the item if that's okay with everybody, if
Yeah.
that's the will of the committee.
So 367 what? Your number. 367, the general number.
General number? I know. I always do 1-800-DIAL DWP.
When you call yourself? All right.
342-5397.
397, okay.
All right,
good.
very good. Thank you. We will be back in
For the
30
record,
days.
Mr. Chair.
For the record, Mr.
When
LaPlante.
everything was 485, I knew every number.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but now they changed it all.
They changed it. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and continue to item number 5. Thank you, Mr. Labange, because I don't want to lose members here, and we've got some votes that we've got to take, and some of these are more informational. So let's go on to item number 5.
Number 5, DWP and CEO reports relative to proposed amendment number 1 to agreement with the Worley Parsons Group to provide reclaimed water utilization services. We have staff from DWP and the CAO.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Karen Isari, the manager of...
If you could speak into the microphone there. I want to make sure those folks who are listening at home can hear everything that we're saying.
Okay, good afternoon, council members. My name is Karen Isari. I'm the manager of Generating Station Engineering with the LA Department of Water and Power. Today we are requesting approval of a 2-year contract extension with no increase in the expenditure limit to allow DWP to continue performing additional reclaimed water studies and pilot testing to identify ways for us to reduce the demand for potable water at our power generating stations. In December 20th, 2010, the original agreement was competitively bid and awarded to Worley Parsons for a period of 3 years with an expenditure limit of $1.2 million. As water supplies continue to diminish, LADWP is identifying ways to reduce potable water usage by substituting reclaimed water in irrigation, equipment operation, and other industrial applications at our facilities. The task assignments we've issued under this agreement will continue to assist LADWP in determining whether reclaimed water can safely and be reliably substituted for potable water. We've completed 10 task assignments. An extension to this agreement would allow us to perform additional studies, including pilots testing and cycle water chemistry improvements within the original contract expenditure limit. And we believe completion of these studies could potentially lead to an additional 317 million gallons of water savings per year.
Very good. So can you help us understand a little bit about some of the delays that you all are experiencing in necessitating the extension of the contract? What is it that's taken a little bit longer to figure out? And then also sort of the role that reclaimed water has in all of this.
I'll let Vito Pasquarello, he's been our project engineer on this job.
Great.
Hello, my name is Vito Pasquarello. Excuse me, I got a little congestion, but basically we had the delays in obtaining data. We originally thought that it would be electronic data on our DCS systems, but it turned out they don't record a lot of chemistry data. So we had to go down to written logs, and when you have stacks of paper, you're trying to manually enter and pull together into spreadsheets. It just took much longer to pull together. We originally tried to do it in-house. It was taking too long, so we sent it out to Worley Parsons to translate over. And it took a delay about a year just to obtain all that data. We found out that it was missing, and we had to go and try to find additional electronic data. So it was really a search, and one of the I guess, recommendations that came from that is we're actually trying to switch over to an all-electronic data sheet to minimize the delays in the future when we have to redo the studies and such. But it was really pulling data and trying to compute it into digital and then translate it into statistical analysis.
In terms of, so that's helpful to understand, how much of the $1.2 million have you all expended so far?
To date, we've spent approximately $450,000.
$450,000. So we're really extending the time here?
We're extending the
more
time.
so than we are the dollar, right?
Right, the dollar amount will remain the same.
Very good. And in terms of reclaimed water, how much do you think that we can save, sort of, if everything was banging on all cylinders here?
Well, right now, our usage approximately at the generating station is about 1,500 million gallons per year.
1,500
million gallons per year. And
1,500 million.
Of that, about 700 million gallons per year is being used in our cooling towers and for irrigation. And so we've identified 2 other systems that we could potentially switch over to reclaim water, and that would save us an additional 317 million.
Wow, that's fantastic. And when will we sort of know that we can actually realize those kinds of savings in water?
Right now, we intend, with this extension, to complete the work probably by mid-2015.
Okay.
So we'd start the pilot studies, gather data, and then we'll know in terms of whether we could reliably switch over.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions?
Just a quick, I'm just looking at the numbers. When did the contract, or is the contract supposed to expire?
The contract expired on December
It's already expired.
19th, and it was acted on by our Board of Commissioners December 17th. Our Board of Commissioners approved the extension December 17th.
Okay, so there's no additional in terms of extending it, like restarting fees or anything to that effect?
No, and in addition, Worley Parsons have agreed to keep the contract terms the same in terms of their rates for the duration.
So again, it's more of an extension of
It's more of an
time, not any additional authority on the dollar amount. Very good. Mr. LaBonge?
Where is your reclaimed water? How you describe your reclaimed water?
Go ahead.
Our recycled water is pulled from different locations depending on which plant we're at. Well, big ones are Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant's a big one. Hyperion and West Basin would be another big one for us to use. And Tillman over in Valley would be a third.
How about Glendale, Los Angeles?
I don't know. With the pipelines we already have piped to our systems are sort of already hard piped in. It would be hard to pull from different ones for the facilities.
Well, that's just downstream. Raise your hand in the audience. Anybody is Glendale, Hyperion, Glendale, Los Angeles included in this reclaimed water?
This is more for the generating stations, so it'd be...
All for the generating station, so not for the water that's in the river today.
No.
There's a lot of water in the river today. So I just, for the employees and others to know, there's a lot of water going down the river today that never was going down there before. It rained a little this weekend, but the river is almost floor-to-floor water, which means a lot of water is coming out of Tillman and coming out of Glendale, Los Angeles, that we could partner with you to use. And is the East Valley Water Reclamation Plant ever going to come back?
That I don't know.
You don't know? It is? Okay, I see Mr. McDaniels. Very good. That's all right.
And so item number 1.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm good with it.
We'll speak to...
I move this item.
Very good. I second. Colleagues, hearing and seeing no objection, the item is unanimously approved to support the request for authority to execute the amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There is no speaker card on that one. I was remiss to say that on item number 4, since we're holding the item, we're going to go ahead and hold the speaker card for when we come back, Dr. Williams. So we'll hear you when we come back to item 4 in 30 days. Item number 6.
Item number 6, Mr. Chair. Members, DWP Sierra reports relative to proposed amendment number 4 to agreement with Sodexo America to provide food services to John Ferraro Building. Mr. Chair, this matter was continued from a January 15th meeting.
Very good. Come on up. Ratepayer advocate as well. All right, very good. Whoever would like to begin first would be great.
Gary Wong, Assistant General Manager for DWP. Amendment number 4 before you for Sodexo is for food service at the JFB during normal working hours and emergency or disaster situations. It will add 15 months to the existing contract for an addition of $561,000. A little history behind this is that prior to August 2010, when the cafe was shut off to the public, the cafeteria was healthy. It provided approximately $40,000 of revenue annually to the DWP. Due to security concerns from August of 2010 to May of 2012, the cafeteria was shut off to the public. As with any other business, you shut it off to the public, they go elsewhere. The revenue for the cafeteria was a combination of DWP, public visitors, and catering to other companies besides DWP. And the cafeteria has not recovered. We've had a couple amendments that have extended this contract, but I think the bottom line is that until there's a long-term commitment, there's not going to be the investment in the facility or investment in the business. The other thing I might note is the cafeteria is it's a 1965 building. It is an all-electric cafeteria, so the grill is electric. We have not made any significant capital investments in that facility.
So help us understand a little bit about the history here, because this is contract amendment number 4.
Correct.
And so start from the beginning here. So you mentioned why business has failed there, but also help us understand how this contract began, the extensions, the revisions, and in particular the guaranteed payment that DWP makes out of the rate base to subsidize this operation. Help me understand all of that.
So amendment number 1 eliminated payments to DWP. This was essentially the revenue structure that came out of rent and gross revenue that goes to DWP. So amendment number 1 back in September of 2011 eliminated that structure.
So what DWP decided to no longer charge rent for Sodexo, so they would operate. And what was the other thing that they eliminated?
Rent and a percentage of revenue.
Okay.
And this came about because coming off the closure of the cafeteria to the public, Sodexo had indicated they could no longer maintain operations. So they had provided notice of closure at that time. So amendment number 2, at the same time, established the purchase or the commitment of $42,000 per month.
This is 2011.
Correct, September
Okay.
of 2011.
So September 2011, then the commission acts, and presumably the council, to go ahead and guarantee payment to Sodexo for $42,500,
Correct.
irrespective of what the sales are?
Well, the $42,500 is netted out. So any outside catering is subtracted from the $42,500. That net amount is further discounted by another 20%.
Okay. And so then what happens?
So amendment number 3 in June of 2013 added $137,319 in dollars in an additional 6 months, because at that time we're in the process of an RFP. And we've had 2 RFPs during the course of this contract. First RFP, there were 3 bidders. Second, there are 2. None of the major food service operations are bidding on this contract.
So none of the major food operators bid on the contract, but you do have an audience of folks who want to participate, and then a decision's made not to give them the business. Can you help us understand why not?
It would continue what's been going on in terms of we're doing 3-year contracts, and 3 years in our minds is not a long enough time for anybody to make an investment in the business and the infrastructure and get a reasonable return to ensure the future success or the long-term success of the cafeteria.
Sure. And I can understand that rationale, but speak to the investment that the ratepayers are making as a result of that decision. So we've been paying how much? So there's a guarantee That's been in effect for how long of what it is, and how many months are we paying the guarantee, or have we paid the guarantee to Sodexo?
Since approximately October of 2011.
So what happens? We write them a check for how much now?
The net amount is has been the $42,000. You net out the outside catering that they would perform, and then you further discount it by 20%. So on average, it's about $33,000 in that neighborhood at maximum payment.
So help me understand if this math is correct. So from November 2011 through October 2013, the actual purchases for catering that the department requests of Sodexo and emergency food services have totaled about $26,000, $26,549. Meanwhile, the supplemental guaranteed payment out of the rate base to Sodexo from this Department of Water and Power has been about $755,000. That's what we've paid to keep them in the building. 2011 to 2013. I mean, am I in the ballpark? Yeah, so he's saying, Mr. Blumenfield has some questions here, but he's talking about the difference between what the actual sort of activity, business activity, and the guarantee.
Right, which is 42 minus 33.
Well, it depends on how much they have in sales.
Right.
It's my understanding that since 2011 to 2013, we've actually paid $755,000 to keep this failed model working at JFB.
That's roughly the number.
So that's about the number, right? Mr. Blumenfield, you had some questions?
Yes. So what did you say the number was? I didn't catch the end of it.
It's in the neighborhood of $700,000 plus.
Council members, Robert Roth, CAO's office. I have data from the department that actually indicates that it's the numbers that you've mentioned are correct. Approximately $755,000 has been spent over a 23 to 24 month period, ending in October of 2013. I don't have data beyond October 2013, so.
Can you break that down a little bit in terms of, because the 42, 33, the discounted by 20%, you're still talking about a much smaller nut. And then is the loss of rent, or where, if you could just ballpark break down that 733, that would be helpful.
Well, the supplemental payments that are made to Sodexo are covering the cost, the lost revenue that Sodexo is not able to make due to internal issues or external issues. The department has an agreement, though, to ensure they have revenue of up to $42,000. Any catering revenue that's ordered for special meetings, for public events, that may reduce that $42,000 guarantee, and any remaining amount that's left over is they take 80% of that remaining amount, and that's the supplemental payment. So it's a little bit of a calculation. Over the 2-year term, over this past 24 months, there has really been $26,000 in catering and $755,000 in supplemental payments. So clearly there's been no substantial amounts of catering. It was an effort, I believe, by the department to have cost cutting, which ironically is not working out that way.
Fred Pickle, Office of the Ratepayer Advocate. I gave you a handout that you should have, and this, we didn't do an independent investigation of this, but we tried to summarize the information available in the DWP and CAO reports. If you look on page 2, I think this will address in a common format. On the slide number 2, it looks at the average transactions at the cafeteria per day. The percentage of JFB or Ferraro building employees who might have gone in. So essentially only about half the employees per day use the cafeteria. And the average transaction is $3.80, which is more than a cup of coffee but less than a meal. So it's a mixture of meals and beverage service. The typical revenue per month for the cafeteria over the 24 months was about $90,000 per month. The catering per month was $1,000 or $1,100 a month. So catering is really side revenue. And we talk about the payment being paid on catering revenue, but it isn't about catering revenue because catering revenue has gone to nearly nothing. That offset was $31,000 per month. So what is Sodexo getting out of this? They're getting $90,000 per month plus a little more than $1,000 per month in catering plus an offset payment of $31,000. And what's that offset per transaction in the cafeteria? Putting the subsidy all back on the cafeteria transaction, it's about $1.33 per transaction. So the average transaction in revenue paid by the employee is $5.30, but its cost is $3.80. The average cost is $5.13, roughly. And what's the impact of this? I am the ratepayer advocate, so there has to be the rate analysis. It's at least $380,000 paid extra by the employees as a subsidy to those using the cafeteria.
Is DWP at the same time, are they catering through other caterers? And how, if so, how much is that costing?
Concurrent with this contract, or now that the...
I'm saying, in terms of outside of this contract, are they catering meals but going to other vendors?
During this contract period, the contractor, in this case Sodexo, essentially has an exclusive on the John Ferraro building. Of course, subsequent to this contract, Sodexo closed operations as of January the 27th, so we are now...
But during the contract period, it wasn't, because that would obviously make it even worse in terms of there wasn't expenditures from other outside catering.
No.
For whatever reasons.
No, there was not.
Do you all have anything else to add before we get to public comment? Okay. Why don't we hear from...
One additional comment. If you don't already know, Sodexo has stopped service, and the employees are being given food truck access in the DWP parking lot. So they're, as of yesterday noontime, I was counting 3 different food trucks in the parking lot.
Okay, that's actually really helpful because one of the reports here sort of alludes to the potential for lost productivity if the cafeteria isn't made available to the employees.
Councilmember?
Yeah.
If I could actually add something about normal city contracts. Within other departments in the city, I've done some quick research and found that this contract is not consistent with how we do contracting for other concession agreements, particularly at LAWA, the Homeboy Cafe, Homeboy General Store, even CVS and LA Mall. They do pay rent. They do sometimes have percent of gross sales. They have maintenance agreements, or not agreement, maintenance expenses, even parking expenses. This is just not a consistent agreement. That said, it is approved as to form and legality by the city attorney, and it is in compliance with department, I guess it's the department's request.
Sure. No, I understand that it's not a good working model, and we've had conversations that we need to make sure that DWP addresses a model that actually that works and is convenient for the workforce, and certainly I hope dignified for the workers who actually are going to be serving DWP employees. And I think the hard part to swallow here, and there's a lot of food puns here that can be made, is that we are paying, and you have to almost wince at the fact that we're saying, thank you, DWP, for ordering less catering to feed your employees, but at the same time, we're completely subsidizing Sodexo to do all of that. And it's been to the tune of $755,000 of ratepayer money. And that's the part that's very difficult to understand. Clearly, we need a solution here that hopefully provides for good wages and good service, and is good for the ratepayers, because here we are completely paying for a bunch of service, and we're not even getting the donations and food to folks who could use it. It's going into Sodexo's pocket, and it certainly isn't going completely to the employees. So it's problematic, and I've got to tell you that I'm really concerned about the business practice, because to your point, the CAO, Homeboy works really well downstairs. It's a captive audience. We're not really that close to walking. I mean, there's a model that can work, and to have this thing be extended 4 times over now, and to have the commission send it this way, they need to fix it. The utility, the department needs to fix this. It's not acceptable by my thinking today. But let's hear from folks who have filled out cards, unless somebody has any questions, and then we'll have some more debate here. I've got speaker cards. Sheila Gill, if y'all wouldn't mind making room for the speakers, and then we may call you back up. Sheila Gill, Ramon Mendoza, and Natalie Newton. We've got 4 microphones, so let's take a 4th person, and Colleen McKinney. And we'll round that out with Mr. Tom Walsh. Or any order they all prefer. If Mr. Walsh, if you wanted to start, okay, that's fine. That's fine with me. Let's go ahead and give everybody 2 minutes. Very good. Mr. Walsh.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. Thank you. Tom Walsh, president of Unite here, representing the employees at the DWP cafeteria. We're here to urge you to vote yes on item 6. As I think has been made clear here today, the cafeteria is currently closed due to a gap in the contract's continuance. And what that means is that the cafeteria, the convenience store, the catering operations are not functioning. That's causing a disruption to the DWP operations. But more importantly, the 13 full-time employees who serve an average of 1,500 customers daily are not able to provide for their families. They don't have wages. They don't have their benefits. Some of these employees, I think it's important for you to know, have been serving the DWP customers for over 30 years. And as was said recently at a board meeting by some of the DWP employees, they consider the food service employees to be part of their family. In fact, they started raising some $4,000 in funds. But we're here today to say we don't want charity. All we want is a fair day's opportunity to have a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. And every day that you postpone this decision is a day that they're not able to provide for their families. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Natalie Newton. I'm a research...
Council members.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The commissioners are the ones that sent this over and didn't fix it.
Yes, I understand.
Council, I intend to figure out how to fix this.
Thank you. So I'm a research analyst at Unite Here Local 11, and I'm here to present more information on the context of the industry. The DWP commissioners had previously expressed concerns about the subsidy to maintain their cafeteria, and likewise, as you all have just mentioned. So in the broader industry trends, the DWP's food service economics are not far from different and other public utilities. Other government agencies that have strayed from this model have found the changes to be challenging. For example, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works in the city of Alhambra structured a food service RFP similar to the DWP's most recent RFP, which you have before you, which would require a 5% gross share of revenue be paid to the county. And they solicited 119 food service providers and only received 2 bids. Likewise, the DWP only received 1 bid. What this means is that the current RFP structure is not attracting many food service companies when you take off the subsidy and whatnot. Cafeteria subsidies in the private sector are also not very different. In 2007, a globally recognized advisory firm called Expense Management Solutions surveyed companies across the nation who contracted with the country's top 3 food service companies, including Sodexo. In their study, they found that all host companies had subsidized space, equipment, and utilities for service at minimum. At another extreme, Google Corporation subsidizes 15 cafeterias at all operating costs, including free gourmet meals with locally grown ingredients. In addition to bringing food service back into operations in the near term, item 6 would allow the DWP to investigate and implement ways to create a more long-term and sustainable structure for food service to 3,000 DWP workers and the public at large. So thank you again for your vote yes on item 6.
Next speaker.
Thank you, council members. My name is Ramon Mendoza. I have been at DWP for 15 years. It is very important for me, my family, and my 3 children that I have a job and medical benefits. I also support my family in Mexico. When DWP cafeteria was closed last Monday, I was lost. I was waiting and waiting. I'm very hurt because they know we have families. I am the sole breadwinner. At the stir-fry station that I serve 80 to 100 people per day, 40 hours a week. I cook made to order stir-fry at 3 different electric oven tops at the same time. I am flipping pens and talking to people. Even though it's a hard work, I like this job. I get along with everyone. Everyone knows me at DWP. To be honest, I would like to retire at this job. So I ask the committee to please vote yes on item number 6 so that I can go back to work and serve DWP with pride. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, council members. My name is Sheila Gill, and I've been here at DWP for 2 years. Being the sole supporter of my household, it's important to have a job. And since I've come to DWP, I started at the salad station, worked my way up to experience the deli station, and also the snack shop, where I am today. Since being at DWP, I've met so many charming and delightful people whom I've grown to appreciate. Everyone is treating me with so much kindness, I feel I'm a part of DWP. Without work, I am unable to support my children, and I'm here to ask the committee to vote yes on item 6 so I can continue to serve DWP with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Colleen McKinney, and I'm here representing the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. We don't have a position on the contract, but I wanted to provide some information for the record about our relationship with DWP over the past year implementing the Good Food Purchasing Policy in their cafeteria. The Good Food Purchasing Policy is a commitment from food service providers to improving Los Angeles regional food system through the implementation of good food purchasing guidelines. By leveraging the purchasing power of large institutions, the purchasing policy encourages healthy food environments and creates economies of scale for local producers and sustainable, fair, and humane practices by shifting purchases towards these types of products. Structured similarly to the tools used to scale achievement in the LEED Green Building Certification Program, the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines emphasize local economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and nutrition. We've appreciated working with DWP over the past year and we look forward to continue working with them over the coming year to ensure that they meet and exceed the baseline in their cafeteria with this policy. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. There are no additional cards. Colleagues, any comments or questions? Need any more from staff? Very good. Well, I will say that I want to thank you for coming and participating today, and I want to apologize on behalf of the utility for failing you in constructing a really bad RFP process that unfortunately has not netted out a real solution. The utility, in my opinion, has an obligation since 2011 when they understood that they got into negotiations here that in trying to help Sodexo be successful, they have failed, in my opinion, to make it so that they actually have a model that works. It's created a situation where we're completely, the ratepayers, the city of Los Angeles, the people who pay their utility bills, are paying for this organization to be there. It doesn't work. It's not right, and it's not right that you all are in this position. And so we need to figure out how to fix this. Unfortunately, I can't support an amendment that continues to give money to this corporation that is already getting free rent, and we're giving them money every month. I can't support that, and so I'm going to move that we disapprove the extension. I hope that the Commission works rapidly to figure out a solution so that not just the workers who are there, but the employees have the ability to have a dependable, reliable, dignified service provider instead of what we have now, which is a really, really broken system over there, and it's just, it's terrible. And so, that being said, I'm going to move that we disapprove the contract and would like a second from my colleagues if they're so amenable.
I'll second that, but I'd like to say something.
Please, Mr.
which is,
Blumenfield.
It just kills me that the workers are the ones that are getting caught in the crossfire here, because it's not your fault. You all have worked hard, and you're serving DWP, you're serving well, and we want to work with the Commission and DWP to make sure that whatever happens in the solution that you're taking care of, because that's what counts. But unfortunately, you're working for an organization that's taking a ratepayer subsidy. It's not like they're paying you and you're living high off the hog. That's clear. You're working hard and you're not getting an exorbitant salary. But the ratepayers are subsidizing this and have had a long time to fix it, and they haven't. So I want to work with the chair and urge the Commission to solve this and make sure that they do it in such a way that is sympathetic to the workers, and that we make sure that these kinds of things don't end up impacting the folks who are on the job making a difference, because it's clear to me that you are and that you're getting in the crossfire of this unfortunate situation.
And Mr. Chair, so I just want to be clear. So if this is not approved today, what's the next step, and what happens from here?
So what's happened is I'll let the CAO come on up. Thank you for testifying. We'll have the CAO come back up just so I'm absolutely correct. But what's happened is the operations have closed at JFB, and as a result, there is no service delivery over there. In my opinion, what has to happen next is, with the disapproval of this, the Commission's going to have to instruct the utility to design an RFP that actually can work over there, that has better terms than what is being proposed in this contract amendment.
And for the CAO, how long will that take?
At the December board meeting, the general manager had mentioned that there was discussion about this item. The board was concerned, although they approved it. The general manager mentioned that a outside consultant could be hired to help advise the department on how to proceed, how to build a business plan that works, that makes sense, and to get a concession, food concession there. The timeline wasn't given. We requested in our report that within 6 months, by July of 2014, that some sort of plan be brought to the board. And
I think a plan needs to be brought to the board as soon as possible, and within that plan, we certainly need a timeline, as opposed to one of those issues where we say, oh, we're going to get to that, and never really commit to a timeline as to when this should be completed. So we could suggest that to the department at that point. Thank you.
And along those lines, I mean, the Homeboy model is a good one. Thank you for digging that up. The CVS is a good model. I mean, we really should figure out how to solve this over there, but I can't support it. So with that, there's a motion and a second. Unless there's any dissenting view, there's a unanimous vote to disapprove this item and to send it back to the Commission. Thank you. Mr. Prieto, that takes us back to where now?
If you'd like, we go to item number 7, or go back to item number 1. Start from the top.
Let's go to item number 7, please.
Number 7. DWP and City Attorney reports relative to the sale of surplus property owned by the DWP at 14030 Heartland Street. We have staff from both DWP and the CAO.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Reynaldo Desma, manager of real estate for DWP, here with Ron Davis, one of our staff members. This vacant house that the department declared excess, held a public auction. Opening bid was $100,000. We got a winning bid of $311,000, and we're here to get approval we're in escrow with the successful bidder, and we'd like to close as soon as possible.
Very good. Mr. CAO, for form and legality, looks good?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Members, any questions? Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and approve that item unanimously. I don't believe I've got any cards on item 7. Doesn't look like it. Very good. Mr. Prieto?
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 1, Mr. Chair, would you like to?
Number 1.
Okay. Item number 1, pursuant to motion Fuentes Blumenfield, DWP and Bureau of Sanitation report in regard to the status of its water conservation programs and efforts to increase water resources, and the governor's declaration of drought emergency and its impact.
Very good. This I know we're doing right. Please proceed.
Right. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jim McDaniel. I'm the interim general manager at the Department of Water and Power. With me here today, I've got Dave Pettyjohn, my director of water resources.
Good afternoon. Tracy Menamidi, Chief Operating Officer, Bureau of Sanitation, along with Doug Walters, Assistant Division Manager, Wastewater Engineering Services.
So I'm going to get this started. I'm here today on behalf of DWP to respond to the council motion introduced by Councilmember Fuentes on January 21st. The motion requested a report on the impact and the response by the city to the statewide drought, its impact on LA residents, and the status of the city's water conservation program and the efforts to increase local water resources. We've provided a comprehensive written response to these topics to the committee, and I'm going to just kind of go over some of the highlights here in my oral comments. The main issue I'd like to address today is DWP's response to the governor's dry year declaration. The city is currently in Phase 2 of its Emergency Water Conservation Plan ordinance, which is the city's water shortage contingency plan. Phase 2 prohibits uses of water and restricts outdoor watering to 3 days per week. And just for a refresher, if your address ends in an odd number, those days are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If your address ends in an even number, your watering days are Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and there's no watering between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. With Phase 2 in place, the city is already leading in its response compared to many of the other cities in Southern California. In fact, with Phase 2 in place, DWP customers have reduced water by over 17% since the last dry period in 2007. To ensure that customers are aware of and continue to follow the ordinance, DWP recently completed its fall media campaign to educate customers on Phase 2 restrictions and will be launching a spring media campaign as early as next month. We are also increasing our active enforcement efforts primarily to remind customers about ordinance restrictions, but this also includes issuing citations to customers who continue to waste water. Based on our past experiences with media campaigns and enforcements, we fully expect Los Angeles residents to respond to calls for an increased conservation. As a result, we do not anticipate a need to move into Phase 3 of the ordinance. I'd like to highlight some additional measures DWP has completed to help respond to the governor's dry year declaration. Late last summer, DWP launched an extensive media campaign promoting our California-friendly landscape incentive program, also called Cash in Your Lawn. The incentive program provides up to $2 per square foot for lawn removal and replacement with low water-using plants and landscape. We're also in the process of finalizing 2 new contracts that will help us provide additional water conservation tools for our customers. The first is a pilot study to develop customized water use reports that are available on the web. These reports will use graphics to show customers how much water they use in comparison to water-efficient neighbors and provide tips on how they can reduce their use. The second contract will assist in the development of a new interactive website that helps customers design their own California-friendly landscapes. The motion also requested information on the city's ongoing water conservation programs and efforts to increase our local water resources. Detailed information on these programs is provided in the written response, and I think Tracy's here specifically to talk about some of the recycled efforts if you have questions on that. I wanted to also give you an update on the city's water supply outlook conditions. On the city's imported water supply conditions, our snowpack measurements in the eastern Sierra are currently trending near historical low. If dry conditions continue, we expect to significantly increase our supplemental water purchases from MWD. Over the past several years, MWD has built up their water storage to their highest levels in history. As a result, MWD has reaffirmed that they will be able to draw on that storage to meet demands in this region, despite the recent 0% state water project allocation by the Department of Water Resources. I want to emphasize, though, that the fact that this water is in storage to dry on now is because we have been aggressively conserving in the past, and we need to continue to serve. Some people have said, oh, I guess everything's okay. We have no reason to worry. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We really need to redouble our efforts, but our customers have done a good job. We just need to give them the tools and continue to give them the reminders and the education. I think they're going to come through for us once again. In conclusion, at the current time, in response to the governor's declaration, we believe that the current Phase 2 ordinance, ongoing media campaign, and step up in enforcement should be adequate to get the city's goals in achieving additional conservation. For the long term, our continuing conservation programs and plans to develop additional local resources demonstrate the city's and DWP's dedication to water conservation and to developing a local, sustainable, and reliable water supply in the future. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. I do have a couple of questions. So you said that the sense is that we won't go into Phase 3, but the City of Los Angeles has been in a Phase 3 situation before. Is that right, in 2010?
We did go into a Phase 3, but we changed the phases of the ordinance at that time because there was a lot of pushback.
So what are the differences between rather than sort of talk about differences, what would Phase 3 look like under the existing rubric, and understanding that this is, at least last year is the driest year in recorded history for California, help us get some comfort as to why we won't get to a Phase 3. What does that look like?
Okay, a Phase 3 in the current ordinance would involve going from 3-day-a-week watering to 1-day-per-week watering. So, and that's pretty drastic. It involves no washing of cars. It involves no filling of swimming pools. I'm not aware of just about any city of any size that's in that kind of a situation right now. And as I said, we do have water in storage. We do have abilities to draw on that as long as we use it wisely. So we just don't think that drastic of an implementation is ready. One of the things that we are looking at, though, the reason that it jumps from 3 to 1 is the last time when we went into the next phase and it was 2-day-a-week watering, there was a lot of concern amongst people who were concerned about losing landscapes and other things. So we went back and adjusted the ordinance to shorten the watering times but provide for 3-day-a-week watering, because that seemed to be the consensus of a lot of folks that felt that was necessary. They would be willing to live with a shorter watering time if they could still water 3-day-a-week. So that's what we came up with for the Phase 2. So we would probably have to go back and kind of do some work on the ordinance if we wanted to come up with something maybe in between. But,
sure. And along those lines, I've gotten I wish Mr. Labange was here, because the internet, the blogosphere, I've gotten some comments in anticipation of this hearing from folks who want to help, I guess, educate us on, deep watering. Those of us who do urban agriculture and that sort of thing, I run my lines, my drip irrigation system, and I run them, according to what the rules are. But I run them long for about 10 minutes, which I think is also within the parameters.
For drip systems, I believe that's allowed. Yeah.
So, so deep watering makes an awful lot of sense. Does the ordinance, currently the Phase 2, sort of take that into account? And then the other thing that I'm hearing from folks are the odd streets don't get a weekend, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing from folks that, can we get a weekend? There's that level of sort of interest. Can you speak to that in terms of, does it make sense to, if we have to go back and tweak the ordinance, any information on deep watering versus just sort of what we do now?
Yeah, we do have provisions in the ordinance, as I said, that would emphasize or encourage drip irrigation. You get more generous benefits because of the water efficiency of drip irrigation. There's also provisions in there if you use the rotating sprinkler heads as opposed to the spray sprinkler heads, you can have additional watering time because you can actually use less water, but you can have more time. So there's a few little tweaks and provisions in there. One of the things I just want to mention, since we've got a lot of people listening right now, that I want to encourage is I've seen two things. One of them is that when it rains, please turn off your sprinklers. I know it's supposed to rain tomorrow night, so turn them off today because you're going to get rain tomorrow, so you shouldn't need to have your sprinklers on. The other thing is that a lot of people haven't gone out and looked at their sprinkler systems. People have automated timers. A lot of these automated timers, after a period without power, just unplugging them or something, they'll default back to a default cycle of every cycle watering for 10 minutes every day, which is way more than you need, as well as being illegal under our ordinance. So people need to go in and look at those things. As far as the days, originally before we made these adjustments last time, there was the day was Saturday and not on Sunday. We did have some feedback from certain faith-based communities that had restrictions on Saturdays, and that was felt that was a problem for them. So we brought back a modification to change that to a Sunday, and that was what was approved by the council. It doesn't really make a difference from a water use perspective. We were just trying to be sensitive to the feedback we were getting.
Sure. And good reminder about the power out. We had a power out in my area for about 10 minutes yesterday, and I haven't checked my sprinklers, so I'm going to have to go do that. On the water conservation stuff, which is great stuff that we're doing, one thing I don't see, and I wonder why it's not part of the mix, is a financing mechanism for folks who want to take on cisterns or AstroTurf or all the different things. We have the rebate system, and we have a number of other ways to help subsidize. But it's always been my thought that if you actually were able to provide all of the upfront costs for someone, a consumer, whether they're residential or business, and then allow them to pay that back through on-bill financing over time, they would get the benefit of a lower water bill, and then they would be paying it back. And there may be a sweet spot in there where a whole heck of a lot of people would take it on, because as it is now, it's great, but you still have to do the outlay yourself. Has there been any thought or movement in the financing direction?
We've looked at some options. We're looking at some additional programs. One thing that was announced the other day over at Metropolitan in response to the governor's declaration when the governor paid a visit was Metropolitan's going to be doubling their conservation program from $20 million to $40 million a year. LA is one of the biggest beneficiaries of that program, so that'll give us some additional opportunity to take on some new programs. The on-bill financing, as you're aware, we're having some issues growing into our brand new billing system. That is something we want to get to, but right now we got to be able to collect the normal bills. They just don't have the bandwidth right now to add additional functionality on the billing system, but it is definitely something we're looking forward to. And with this additional billing system, that was one of the things we're looking forward to, is having this new system, is the ability to add that sort of thing. We just can't. We're not quite ready to be able to do it right now.
Or some sort of a loan. I've been kicking around this idea for several years, and actually had a bill in the Assembly that specifically allowed it because of the problem that you have with liens. So there's a number of legalities that have been cleared for that to happen, and they're starting to do it in some other places, in Sonoma County.
So, also on that, depending on what the program is, on some programs when you get the incentive payment high enough, you get third-party contractors coming in who will be willing to upfront costs, which kind of is a different way of getting at that problem. So I know, like on the toilet program, we got our toilet programs up high enough so that customers didn't have to put any money into that. The contractor would just come in and change it out. We're looking at some of the other programs to see whether you can get to that point, because once you get to that point, there's a lot more access to the programs.
In terms of sort of the public outreach, I noticed in the report that you have, I guess in March or so, you're going to begin really aggressively helping people understand what they can do, whether it's the rebate programs, efficiency, that sort of thing. What is that program anticipated to look like? I mean, do you all have a budget to do that? How are you going to convince members of the 7th Council District, the 3rd Council District, that there's all these options available to folks? What's the idea?
I'm going to let Dave.
Well, we do have a budget for that, and the fall campaign is going to be a pretty extensive campaign. We're going to essentially focus a lot on the messaging that Jim mentioned about the conservation days and the education on what the dry year looks like. And also, we want to focus on one of our premier programs, which is our Cash for Grass program. So we want to incentivize people to think about doing that. A couple of other things we're going to do, Jim mentioned also, is getting a website up to help people convert their lawns over to California-friendly plants. So that's going to be another focus of the media campaign. We're doing all the normal media that we've done, but we're also looking at billboards this time, which we haven't done in the past. So We think we'll have a fairly extensive media campaign, and those are going to be kind of the focuses of that campaign.
Mr. Romalo's been working with us on making better use of social media, so we've made a lot more inroads into our Twitter, at least on the push out on the message. Our Facebook page is getting a lot more attention than it did before, and we're promoting that more. So those are some of the methods that we can use. Paid advertising on television and radio is extremely expensive. I don't think we've really seen the payback on that, so we're trying to explore other more cost-effective means. Working with community groups has been one of the biggest things. Working with the neighborhood councils, they've expressed a huge desire to work with us and allow us to kind of leverage their tentacles into the community in different places that we might never get to. So we do plan on continuing to work with them.
Sure. Crazy idea for you on the advertising. In the bill, put a little, alternate. This is what your bill would look like if you had a California lawn. Just have the person's actual bill and what the estimated new bill would look like, and I bet you get a lot of takers.
That's actually a great idea. Presumably your new billing system has the ability to, once we figure out where the meters are and we've read them properly, I mean, I have to imagine that you have to, since we were so good at taking estimates as to what bills were going to be, we could probably do it in the reverse. If we had all of the bells and whistles, if you had the cistern, if you had the bioswale, if you had this kind of investment, that's actually a fantastic idea, I think. Along those lines, I would highly encourage you to work with the council offices. Obviously, you all have enjoyed tremendous success. I remember vividly, as a field deputy, the low flush toilet giveaways. I mean, we couldn't stock those fast enough. The utility couldn't, to get people to participate. And equally effective, I think, was when we were making the transition to lighting, LED lighting, and that was something that went like gangbusters. So would love to work with you on trying to figure out how to be innovative and successful in getting the word out. Just to shift gears a little bit, Mr. Blumenfield came up with I think the right marketing phrase, showers to flowers, the aggressive purple pipe.
Wasn't my idea.
Well, we're going to give you credit. We're in politics, right? To me, that seems like the time couldn't be more ripe for us to really have a conversation with Angelenos about what it is to conserve. And in fact, I think you all don't get enough credit, to be honest, on your urban water management plan and all of the work that you're doing to make sure that the water is there. I think part of our challenge right now is that with such great weather, people don't understand that we're in a drought. I mean, everywhere I go, anecdotally, everywhere I go and talk to folks, everything's fantastic. Their rates are predictable. Given some of the burps that we had in the system, but people I think equate drought with heat, and we've got great weather, but we've got a drought. And so to me, the opportunity to make the case to be aggressive on purple pipe and moving that forward, I think there could be no better time, especially since there's been, I think, a very good job by the media to help highlight how bad it really is in California. The fact that the pipes are running the other direction towards the north for the first time that I can ever remember is really pretty alarming to me, and it's something that should be seized. That being said, where are we on rolling out the infrastructure to have the purple pipe? What needs to be done by this council, by the utility, to get the ball rolling there?
Well, we've got a number of the purple pipe projects that are underway right now. Our board recently approved a project that consisted of a whole multiple series of pipe projects in the San Fernando Valley to take water out from Tillman. We're working very closely with Tracy and Bureau of Sanitation to begin the environmental review process on the advanced treatment facility that would take water from the Donald C. Tillman plant and advance treat that to the point that it could be used to recharge the groundwater basin, similar to the project that's been done in Orange County. I don't know, Tracy, do you want to comment on that?
Just a few things on that. We're excited to be working with the Department of Water and Power on moving that project forward. This is, again, at the Donald C. Tillman plant that will provide advanced treatment, so that's reverse osmosis and microfiltration, to produce about 30,000 acre-feet per year. So it's a big amount of water. We're very excited about the opportunities in that area. The EIR is currently underway, and we're doing design work on that at this point. Another project that we're working on with the Department of Water and Power is at our Terminal Island water reclamation plant. We currently have part of our water there that's advanced treated with microfiltration and reverse osmosis, and we have design underway right now to expand that to its fullest capacity, where we will be producing approximately 11.5 million gallons a day. Currently, we treat about 4 million gallons a day. So it will be a large expansion, and all of the water that we currently receive at Terminal Island will be treated to that advanced level, and we will be using it for seawater intrusion barrier as well as supplemental water to Machado Lake and other industrial uses. So we're excited about that. And we're also excited about working with the Department of Water and Power on our update to our water IRP, and that's our One Water LA plan for 2040. So we're just embarking upon that. That will be about a 3-year effort, which will include the concepts of what we can do at our wastewater treatment plants to recycle more water and to increase the amount of local water resources that we have here.
Great. Well, not as a formal action, but if you all could communicate to the committee and its members the items that the council can start helping to effectuate that purple pipe layout. I know that a lot's been done and things are happening, but the getting is good right now. I mean, it really is. I think people understand that we need to be as strategic as possible with our water resources. And along those lines, what can you tell us about sort of the remediation efforts in the San Fernando Valley? That water basin has so much contamination in the areas, and I know it boils down to ultimately cost to do the remediation. But give us a snapshot as to where we are in the San Fernando Valley, because, by the way, all of the recharge is in the San Fernando Valley, it feels like. And understanding that, our imports, 88%, $984 a square foot an acre versus what it costs to get groundwater out. Where are we on remediation?
Well, you're exactly right, Council Member. It's a huge opportunity for us. It's also a huge challenge for us. Remediating the groundwater contamination in the San Fernando Basin is going to be the linchpin to a lot of our local water supplies. The groundwater recharge that Tracy mentioned from the Donald C. Tillman, that advanced treated water, we can recharge the groundwater basin, but you're recharging a contaminated basin. So we need to have the ability to treat that water and beneficially use it when we pull it out. Same thing goes for stormwater capture. We've got basically a deficit in our basin right now, so we're spending money and we're building projects to enhance our stormwater capture, but eventually we'll be able to start harvesting that stormwater capture. But again, it has to be water that's safe to use. So the first step to do that is you have to know what you're treating for. And to know what you're treating for, we have to build a rather extensive network of monitoring wells. And this is all regulated by the California Department of Public Health. We were required to install 25 additional wells to the 75 wells that we already have in place. The last of those is just finishing as we speak right now. We're collecting data from the ones that were done at the beginning. We have begun the very preliminary environmental work on that. We've got an RFP. We're in the middle of an RFP process right now to bring on what they call an owner's representative. This will be a very large construction project, so we need to have special expertise to help us choose the best procurement process for a very large engineering and construction project. So we're in the process of doing all that. We anticipate moving forward on this on a parallel track. We're also moving forward aggressively to identify potentially responsible parties to help pay for this so that all of the cost of this doesn't go on the ratepayers. But as you pointed out, Councilmember Fuentes, with the cost of met water versus the cost of even treating groundwater, this is a good deal for our customers. So we feel that we have the bonding capacity and the capital improvement capacity to move this project forward. It can be done in a manner that's at a fairly gross level, pretty neutral to the customer. The costs come differently. Instead of paying for purchased water from Metropolitan, you'll pay debt service to pay for a treatment plant, but it'll pretty much kind of come out in the wash. So we think this is a go project. We're moving forward on it very aggressively. It's just, unfortunately, there's a lot of things you have to do to make sure that you're treating the groundwater. When you have a massively contaminated groundwater site, it's really unknown. We know a few of the contaminants. We know we have TCE. We know we have PC. We know we have Chrome 6. But there's a whole suite of chemicals that were used in various industries out there. The health department wants us to be very particular and very meticulous about how we monitor and sample for all those, because if you're going to spend $600 to $900 million building a treatment plant, you need to make sure you're treating for the right things. And so we have to do that groundwork. It's frustrating, but we need to do it right.
Sure. No, and I absolutely appreciate it. I'm actually heartened to hear that. It sounds like the economics have been done where we can recognize that maybe in the short term it's a wash between buying water and treating water, but these localized regional solutions ultimately are going to be really cost effective.
Absolutely, and the longer term even more
That
so.
notwithstanding, we really need to have some good advocacy on what Sacramento and the federal government are doing with respect to opportunities for Los Angeles and the utility to get the funds necessary to accomplish this and expedite this. And I've introduced a motion that speaks to really laying out an advocacy agenda for us, and so I appreciate your effort and your report back soon enough on that. Mr. Blumenfield, do you have any questions? Very good. Hearing and seeing none, I will go ahead and, let's take a speaker card here. I think we've got two, actually. Dr. Tom Williams and Noah Garrison.
Good afternoon. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council and Sierra Club Water Committee representative. We're already in the drought. We've, in Sierra Club, have known that we've been in the drought for a long time. 13 inches of rain on a typical year, and we haven't had many typical years. Real issue. We want conservation. Our family does 50 gallons per person per day. That is a very low number. We have permeable pavement. We have this. We have that. By the way, rainfall is not the indicator. The soil moisture is the indicator, and there are piezometers that are suited for irrigation systems. Don't worry about the rain. Worry about what's in the soil. So we have a lot of different things going on here. Basic, you need probably a 4-tiered ratepayers system of charges. That is a lifeline service level, say 150 to 100 gallons per person per day, because it's the only way to enforce it. You might say irrigation, I can do it at night and there's nobody going to be going around at 2 a.m. in the morning and enforcing anything. So we're quite concerned about getting out, but it's a matter of get it into the rates, because the meter is the one thing that everybody will agree on, and it's times the rate. If you're doing more than 200 gallons per person per day, there's something wrong. And we live basically in a desert. Global warming, yeah. Climate change, yeah. Purple pipe, yeah. 10% of the total flow is in purple pipe. 10%. It's hardly even.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you start, Mr. Garrison, I'll ask Leon Shapiro to join us at the table, too. He's testifying on this. Mr. Garrison.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for this opportunity to present comment. My name is Noah Garrison. I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council. I want to start by commending DWP for the work they have done on stormwater capture. There are long-standing efforts by DWP to capture runoff, to utilize spreading grounds and try to make use of this resource. But there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of acre feet of additional stormwater runoff that can be used, captured, put into our ground, or used on site, captured and used on site for irrigation, toilet flushing, other potential applications, and we need to make the most of that right now. And despite the DWP's efforts and progressive stance on stormwater capture, the city really needs to do more. In particular, it really needs to coordinate efforts between agencies. One example would be the Bureau of Sanitation is currently tasked with implementing the Los Angeles County Stormwater Permit under the Clean Water Act. This permit has the opportunity or the potential to result in capture of runoff on watershed-based unprecedented scales. And those efforts absolutely have to be tied with efforts by DWP to capture the runoff. Currently, DWP is undergoing its stormwater master plan, and the two efforts, both of which have tremendous potential for the city, are not necessarily tied together. And we need better coordination between these agencies and agencies like Parks, the Parks Agency, transportation and street agencies, all of which need to be communicating and better making the use of multiple benefit projects that can capture water quality, water supply, open space, clean air benefits. So I would urge the council to push in that direction. Secondly, we have the potential for efficiency that can absolutely aid in the city. We can use less water. As he pointed out, his family uses 50 gallons per day. Australian families use 30 to 40, and we can lower the number in Los Angeles right now. Reducing losses from LA's water system, transitioning to more water-efficient landscapes. There are a number of different approaches that can be taken that can absolutely aid in this process.
Great, thank you. Mr. Shapiro.
Councilors, thank you. I am Leon Shapiro, and I'm speaking on behalf of Tree People. Tree People is a Los Angeles-based nonprofit with a 4-decade history of offering practical ways for every Angelino to keep our city safe and healthy in the most extreme dry weather. We believe that every Angelino should be the watershed manager of their own individual property. To help us accomplish this, we provide programs to educate Angelinos, kids through adults, on water conservation and water capture for reuse. In addition, our grassroots work, Tree People also works at the policy level to ensure that the right laws, policies, and incentives are created to aggressively pursue a local water supply. This current drought declaration brings opportunities to make positive changes to increase our local water supply. However, there is often a large gap between knowing how to accomplish change and having the will to do it. It is often a crisis. It often takes a crisis for the public and agencies to get the will to do what needs to be done. But any crisis can also usher in rush decisions, so we urge you to work with us and our partner organizations while developing policies. In the words of a very astute political consultant, a good crisis is a sad thing to waste. For today, we'd like to focus on 3 specific issues. 1, Tree People is currently facilitating intensive discussions among the water-related agencies in LA about how we can better manage our water resources from an integrated perspective. Board of Sanitation and DWP are key partners in this, and we hope that to keep you briefed on this progress within 2 months. 2, we are a partner in the development of DWP Stormwater Capture Master Plan, and we urge council members to ensure this plan pursues progressive stormwater projects and policies and to fund them, fund implementation. Lastly, we urge the committee to look at every opportunity to increase local water capture, and that includes the potential road bond, green street policies, and creating new incentive programs for LA residents to capture water on their property.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield, anything else? No. Very good. In that case, let's go ahead and ask DWP and the Bureau of Sanitation to report quarterly to the committee on the status of the drought and ratepayer compliance with water use restrictions, and we'll note and file in as much as it is submitted for informational purposes. Very good. Mr. Prieto, where does it take us?
Item number 2, Mr. Chair, which is a matter continued from the January 15th meeting. The CAO report relative to financial review, project adjustment, and funding recommendations in connection with Prop O.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Alma Gibson with the CAO's office, and as Rafael just mentioned, as part of our annual Prop O Clean Water Bond Program status reporting, our office, along with the assistance of the Bureau of Sanitation and the Bureau of Engineering and the CLA, is transmitting to you a financial review, project adjustment, and funding recommendation report, along with an addendum report. So in general, the original report dated November 14 recommended that out of the total $72.8 million that was determined to be available for Prop O funds reprogramming, a total of approximately $67.9 million was to be reprogrammed as follows, and that is approximately $66.3 million was recommended to be appropriated for projects already partially funded and which now require additional funds to continue their next phase of improvements. In addition, approximately $1.6 million is recommended to be appropriated to begin the design work for the highest rated water quality project on the waiting list, which is the Aliso Creek Lime Kiln Creek Restoration Project. Now, this would have left a total of $5 million, which is recommended to be set aside for the program contingency reserve. However, this amount is now recommended to be increased by $5.6 million as a result of the recommendations in the addendum report dated February 3rd. And it is advised that these funds remain available to meet any future funding gaps that may be required for the current 19 active projects. This is because our addendum report recommends adjusting down the project budget for the Machado Lake Ecosystem Rehabilitation Project by $5.6 million. On January 29th, the Board of Public Works awarded the construction contract to the lowest construction bidder, which resulted in a reduction of the amount recommended to be appropriated to this project's budgets from what was indicated in the original report. This project now only needs an additional $10.9 million to be fully funded instead of the estimated $16.6 that was previously recommended. Therefore, the final amount recommended for the overall Prop O project funding is now $62.2 million, and the new program contingency reserve is $10.6 million. In addition, our addendum report also recommends that the actions related to the Taylor Yard River Park G2 parcel land acquisition project within the original report be deferred until the negotiations are completed, which should occur within the near future. Therefore, we recommend that the balance of the 10 recommendations from the original November 14 report, which again includes this revised project budget for the Machado Lake Rehabilitation Project, be approved. I can go through each of the recommendations in the report, but if you have any questions regarding the specifics regarding these projects, we have the program managers here who can help.
Sure. Thank you for that. No, the specifics are laid out fairly clearly on the report. But if you could just maybe briefly give me a status on all the Prop O projects in terms of are we on track?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to provide you that. As a matter of fact, the Bureau of Engineering does provide monthly reporting on the current status of the active projects report, and you could find these reports within their website if you can't want, but I have a copy actually right here of the report.
Are we okay from your perspective?
I believe
Or is there
so.
any projects that sort of raise any red flags?
Good afternoon, Councilmember. Kendra Kokuda with the Bureau of Engineering. Out of the 18 active projects, currently 7 projects are on schedule, 2 projects are ahead of schedule, and the remaining projects are slightly behind schedule. So in general, the program is moving forward. I would like to comment also that as a result of the program savings that you are about to consider, we are able to add 2 additional projects and begin those projects as well. So that's good news. We're beginning to add additional projects.
Very good. And can you just tell us a little bit about those projects and the project cost savings or interest income as it relates to the revised numbers on Machado?
Yes. So in Machado in particular, there were 2 low bids, one at $74.9 million and one at $79.8 million. During the course of our original recommendation last fall, the second low bidder protested the low bid, which potentially put the low bid award in jeopardy. But since then, the Board of Public Works has taken action to certify and award the project pending council approval to the low bidder at $74.8 million, which resulted in the $5.6 million in savings. The additional projects that are being funded here include the Albion Riverside project, which is a great project. We've already invested about $20 million in the land acquisition and site cleanup for that project. We're requesting $11.5 million for that project to get that project started for design and construction. Also, the Bureau of Sanitation has their catch basin insert project, Phase 4, which is part of their total maximum daily limit compliance milestones for trash compliance. And then finally, I already mentioned the Machado Lake project, but I guess finally the one last thing would be the Aliso Lime Kiln project, which is being funded at $1.6 million to start design. Another really good project. It qualified in the first round of project reviews for funding, and the Bureau of Engineering, as soon as the council takes action, we'll be happy to start that project as well.
Very good. Do any of you have anything else to add to the report?
No, good afternoon. Shwaram Karagani, Stormwater Program Manager, Bureau of Sanitation. No, I echo what you have heard from both CAO and also Bureau of Engineering.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield will be back, but either way, we've lost a quorum. So what we'll do is we'll communicate to the full council approval of the CAO addendum report. Before I get ahead of myself, let me see if there's any cards on this. This is item number 2. I do not see any cards.
You're good.
So what we'll do is we'll communicate to the full City Council the approval of the CAO addendum report regarding funding adjustments in the Proposition O program as specified below. Increase of $11.455 million for the Albion Riverside Park improvements. Increase of $6.16 million for catch basin inserts and opening screen covers. Budget adjustments of $10.933666 for Machado Lake project and related matters, and instruct the Prop O Administrative Oversight Committee to report in 45 days on the status of the program, contingency reserve, and the potential use of these funds for projects. So that'll be a communication, and I'm sure it'll go well for the full council. And we'll hold G2 as we talked about. Thank you very much for the addendum. I think this helped tremendously.
Great.
That will be the order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Prieto, where are we now? Item 3.
Item 3, your final one, sir. And actually, there's a technical correction. The way the agenda notes the item, this is at a 5-year extension. Actually, it's a 2-year extension.
Very good.
So, CAO report relative to that 2-year extension on the Second Amendment to the contract with Terralog.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. Wilson Poon with the CAO's office. Item 3 is a 2-year extension with their contract with Geo Environmental for the implementation of the TIRE project, the Terminal Island Renewable Energy Project, which injects Class A biosolids into deep, abandoned, or depleted oil reservoirs at a depth of over 5,000 feet, and through thermal treatment and biodegradation, these materials are converted into methane gas and recovered as a renewable energy source. The project started in 2006 and has been amended several times. The term of the current contract expired last Friday, January 31st, which is why we're asking for the 2-year extension. The current ceiling is about $26.9 million, and there's enough capacity within that ceiling where no additional funding is required. There's sufficient funds provided in this year's budget, and the second year of the amendment, funding will be provided in next year's budget for that. So I have the Bureau here who can talk more about the technology and maybe provide a status update on the project as well. But our office is supporting the Bureau's request to execute the extension.
Very good.
Good afternoon, Council Member. Mark Starr, Bureau of Sanitation, Hyperion Treatment Plant. Once again, we're just requesting authority to execute the first of a 2-year renewal option as already contained within the Second Amendment to this contract with Geotechnologies Environment for implementation of the Terminal Island Renewable Energy Project. This is a 4-year contract, and we are asking to renew only the first 2-year renewal option at this time. The original contract with the 2, it was a 4-year plus 2 and 2 on renewal options. That was approved by the Board of Public Works and the Council in February 2010. It's set to expire it did expire, on January 31st, 2014, as was already indicated to you. All terms and conditions of the contract will remain in effect. We're asking for no scope changes, and there's no change in the contract ceiling. We are going to operate through the first renewal option under the existing contract ceiling. I prepared a very brief PowerPoint presentation. If you would like, I could go through that, explaining the technology a little bit more.
Yeah, if you could just give us sort of give me, not us, the highlights, the current status of the project. I had a chance to look through this, so I appreciate that. But where are we on the project now? And if you could help me understand, with this extension, are you all confident that we'll be meeting the goal of capture in sufficient quantities? That seems to be the goal here of the project. And so bring us up to date on how we're doing.
Currently, we're injecting all of TI liquid solids in through the tire project, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 4 truckloads of biosolids. That's 26 tons in large semi-truckloads are trucked to the tire project and slurried and injected with the biosolids or the solids from TI. We have 3 wells there right now, 1 injection and 2 monitoring wells. We are in the process of drilling a 4th well, and with that we should be able to inject additional biosolids, basically almost double our capacity currently right now, which should meet our goals.
And so what's the turn on the production for methane as a result of that? This is a demonstration, right?
Correct.
So I mean, when do we start? At what point do you all anticipate having done enough injection where we're actually going to get some positive extraction? Worthwhile extraction, I guess.
Yeah. We feel that with the second well, we will double that capacity, and we'll see that hopefully within the first or within one of these renewal options. It takes time to obviously put all this material down there and have sufficient material to generate the gas in quantities that we would be able to harvest that.
Sure. So what does the schedule look like? I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, obviously. So
Right.
I mean, so your expectation is that the demonstration will run. It's a 2-year extension that we're talking about here. So at the conclusion, will we have a good demonstration of the technology?
Right now, EPA is issued as a second experimental permit to run this. So we're going to continue through this first 2-year renewal option and proceed. We will actually want to proceed into the second renewal option too, also. So we will probably see hopefully see gas generation during that period.
But you all have to have a good guess as to when you'll see the gas, right? I mean, when do you think that you'll actually start seeing?
We have a 5-year permit from the EPA. So what we will do is at the end of the 5 years, it's a demonstration project. We'll have to evaluate to see, based on the gas monitoring that we're doing, how much methane it's been generated. But at this time, I do not believe we have any estimate as to when we would actually begin to have this in sufficient quantities to use it as a renewable source.
Okay. Mr. Blumenfield?
Just out of curiosity on this, are there, in this demonstration project, risks that have been identified in terms of either groundwater or, I don't know, it just seems like putting methane gas and biosludge down in a deep hole, that there could be some risks?
None, but I will have Omar Mogadam from Bureau of Sanitation, who's involved with the project from inception, to answer your question.
Good afternoon, council members. Omar Mogadam, Director of Regulatory Affairs with City of Los Angeles Bureau of Sanitation. Okay, I'll take your question first. As far as the impact or negative impact into the water tables, the answer is no. This the project has been vetted through a number of, I would say, challenges that had been brought against this project from the very inception of the project in 1999. And I must say that, at least for you to visually get the project, the placement of the biosolids, it takes place at the depth of 1 mile or 5,000 or so feet subsurface. However, at the depth of around 3,800, we have a tombstone of 62 feet thickness, stiff, I would say, gas cap or geological cap. That's very much the tombstone for biosolids. Visually, we are injecting at the depth of 5,000 feet, so there are 1,800 feet thickness of the formation that's been permitted. However, we are still injecting, as of today, over the course of last 5 years, we are still injecting in the very bottom 50 feet thickness, which has also evaded into the 100 feet above that. So we are very bottom, I would say, section of the geological formation that was permitted. That's number one. Number two, from the lateral discharge or leakages into the system, this system is over-engineered, overbuilt with the number of casings that's been implemented in here. EPA requires 2 concrete casings. We have a third concrete casing plus stainless steel pipeline that feeds the biosolids into the targeted formation. So additional protective, I would say, from the safety and also the mechanical integrity of biosolids has been established in this project.
And then the methane gas that's going to come up, I mean, how do you control that it doesn't permeate through other areas? Or, I mean, because you're not creating a casket down there. You're using the natural formations, and there could be other.
Excellent question. That's why we have 2 monitoring wells right now with 1 injection system. Those monitoring wells will ultimately, at some day in the future, will be the extraction wells. In other words, the gas will not simply escape into the formation. As I said, visually you want to keep that 3,800 feet, I would say, depth. There is a gas cap. So any gas migration that takes place still is entrapped into this beneath that gas cap. Nonetheless, the path of least resistance will take it into the monitoring well, which at the later time will be extraction well. So rather than, I mean, if one day this gas generation that has already been taking place, but migrates toward the up deep extraction well, and that would be the time to begin extraction. We do see minute, or I would say we do see the gas being coming out of the aerospace of the gas or gas space of the gas, as well as the pressurized sample that's been extracted every quarter, if I'm not mistaken, from Diane will tell me, every quarter, by taking the pressurized samples from the formation, deep in the formation, we are doing exactly what the can of Coke will do. In other words, when you open it at the pressurized system, there will be discharge of the gas. So we are taking 2 different samples, the samples of the gas from the gas cap, as well as the pressurized sample. And both has shown an increase of the methane concentration, because there are 2 things here. Generation of methane or gas was one thing, then the capture and extraction of the gas. We do generate gas. We have the confirmation of that, but we do not extract.
You generate when you don't extract.
That's right, we do not. Because let's say if you start extracting today, within few days we may run out of gas and we are just blowing the fluid out there. The fluid that comes from biosolids, that's not the intent of the project. The intent is to have such a large gas cap that for every pound or every ton of biosolids that's injected into the injection well will have equivalent of an extracted from the monitoring well today, future extraction well.
And thank you for ending there, because that is the goal as a demonstration, because our biosolids today go to Kern County and get spread at, Green Acres, is that what we call it?
That's correct.
And so is the end goal ultimately to find another solution set for biosolids, so that way we're actually maybe realizing a renewable source of gas that can be used at the project up the street there, right?
Perhaps the answer to that is more diversified program. In other words, we know that we have a great showcase of the Green Acres Farm for the land application. And this project has gradually, since its inception and implementation in 2008, has gradually increased the feed rate into the injection system. And today we are in the range of, as Mark said, we are in the range of 180 to 200 tons per day. The new permit, and with the implementation of the 4th well, allows us to take to the upper limit of the permit, EPA permit, which is up to 400 tons per day.
And how many tons per day does the city of Los Angeles produce of biosolid?
My understanding, between 650 to 670 tons per day.
That's correct.
If I might add, Tracy Menamidi, Chief Operating Officer, Sanitation. Councilmember Fuentes, you were kind of taking us down a good path here that I wanted to pull on, and that was about our biosolids program and our biosolids management program. What we have is much of our biosolids land applied at Green Acres Farm. What we would like to have is a strong, diversified program, and this renewable energy project at Terminal Island is part of our diversified program for managing our biosolids. So I just wanted to bring up the point that Tire is a project that helps us manage our biosolids because we inject it. The benefit, the added benefit of that is the carbon sequestration as well as the potential for the methane that could be produced. But the essence of the program is that it helps us diversify our biosolids program.
And there's a market for that methane that's produced. What's the project that we just approved? It's not Constellation, is it?
The project is the Hyperion digester gas.
The feedstock there is the same type of methane gas, isn't it?
It would be in addition to and above and beyond, yes, but it's very similar.
Because we wouldn't flare it. I mean,
right.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Get any benefits out of the sequestration in terms of the being able to sell those rights in some way? Sequestration?
The sequestration is part of the global warming impacts and us trying to do our part to minimize the carbon footprint.
Mr. Blumenfield's question is there any potential to leverage the ability to sequester solids and maybe be part of a market with...
Be part of the marketing.
Greenhouse gases, yeah, if you want
to
take that,
the carbon sequestration or carbon footprint reduction, they are twofold. Number one is obviously every pound of the carbon in the biosolids that's entrapped and sequestered in the formation. And number two, reduction of the truck traffic, CO2 associated with the truck traffic for hauling the biosolids. So those are the two components. And we have actually an assessment of today's assessment of the carbon sequestration and the projection for up to 400 tons per day.
Right. So that's different than renewable energy credits through green energy that we're producing. It's a different concept.
Redefine them.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. I do have, as you can tell, Mr. Blumenfield and I will geek out on this sort of stuff. There is a speaker card, Dr. Tom Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council and Sierra Club Oil and Gas Committee also. We have one basic problem with this project. The concept is great, but how can you wind up at the end of, well, they haven't ended the $26 million. They're asking for an extension with no cost. Wow, that's pretty good. Poor project management. Remember, 3 years ago, we needed a lot of millions of dollars, and we had to allocate them to this project, that project, and various others, but they didn't get it spent. In this day and age, with Primavera and all sorts of other digital project management techniques, they weren't able to spend $6 million, $5 million, and now they want an extension? It doesn't sound right. I would suggest that you go back and ask them, where's the project management for the next 2 years that will confirm that they will have zero budget left at the end? $26 million. Why did they ask for it? Was it just to sock it away to make sure that the budget didn't come after them? I don't know. But the real thing is you have two projects. First, the number five, and this one. Project management needs to be achieved. They haven't done it. They need to have some assistance and be held accountable for spending another $5-6 million during the next 2 years. It's only $5-6 million.
Very good. Again, understanding that there isn't a quorum, we are going to go ahead and communicate to the full City Council that we approve the proposed first 2-year extension of the Amendment Number 2 with Terralog for the implementation of the tire project as specified. Very good. That takes us to the end of our meeting, and now public comment. Mr. Williams, you have the only card, it looks like, on public comment. So
That's
the
why I
floor is
like
yours.
the environment and energy. Okay. Sierra Club Angeles chapter, you know me. Okay. Sierra Club Angeles chapter has a new committee. It's called the FOG Committee, Fracking, Oil and Gas. It will be eventually, these issues will eventually be coming to this committee. We have problems in the North Harbor area, CD15. We have problems at the Allen Coast site in CD1. We have problems at Beverly Center. There's an oil field there. We had, many years ago, 1985, we had a blowout. 22 people went to the hospital from the Ross Dress for Less store at 3rd and Ogden. Why? Because bad field operations had overpressurized the field and it blew out. And the gas found its way. The same methane, it can find its way very easily. 22 people went to the hospital. We closed down Farmers Market for 3 days. We have a real problem in the city of Los Angeles and some of the surrounding communities. Oil and gas development in a dense urban area has a basic problem. Explosions, contamination, people getting sick. Do you want to put another 22 people in the hospital? Oh, by the way, down on Olive, they had to evacuate 100 plus people from a 3-story building because they had overpressurized the field, and oily water came up, and Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Sanitation had real problems. So it's coming. Angeles chapter has organized to try to help people in those areas. Murphy on Adams Street, Jefferson, and Washington. So we're quite concerned. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Prieto, does that clear the desk?
That certainly clears the desk.
Very good. We are adjourned.